Heise. If you love embroidery, maybe you love embroidery books as well. I definitely do. I thought I would share just a few of my favorite embroidery books. So let's have a little look at them. The first one is this one. Mary Thomas's Dictionary of Embroidery Stitches. I know you can look up any stitch you want on the internet, but I think it's really nice to have a book that I can look through. And this one is a real classic. I'm not sure when the first edition was published. Let's have a look. See. So let's have a look. Yeah. The first edition was published in 1934. So that's almost 100 years ago. And then it's been republished again and again over the years. And my copy here is from, I think, 1991. So even this one is over 30 years old. I'm sure it's been republished at least once since. So this book has all the stitches divided into various groups: outline stitches, border stitches, isolated stitches, detached filling stitches, and so on. So it's just a compilation of the stitches. So there's a photograph of finished examples of the stitches, and then there's a description and diagram for each stitch. I have to admit, for some of the stitches, the diagrams or the explanations sometimes don't make sense, but maybe that's just me. So there's lots of different stitches. I think there's 100 stitches in here. Obviously there's many more stitches that you can do. I just find it really inspiring to look through it and see all the different stitch samples, even the ones I have no intention of doing, like these ones with beads on. All these sort of, they look quite complicated, but it's still fun to look at them. And I hardly ever do anything on canvas. But again, it's really inspiring to look at it. Ooh, look at this one. I would never make something like this, but it just gives me ideas for what I could do with what I like to do. So this is definitely one of my favorite embroidery books. I can highly recommend finding a copy of it. Usually you can find copies like this old version on eBay or wherever you can find used books. So I had very limited sort of experience of embroidery, or whatever you want to call it. So all what I sort of had come across was fairly traditional. But then I came across the work of Tilleke Schwarz, a Dutch embroidery artist. I think I first saw her work in a copy of Embroidery magazine here in England. Oh, let's have a look at it. It's really, it's beautiful, but also so different from anything else that I've ever seen. So let's see if we can find something like this. So she's stitched a map, and then there's something that looks like cross stitch. I think this is, yeah, it's quite a large piece, but obviously in the book it's small. And writing, and there's a funny little turtle. And the writing is usually, it's either like poems or stuff from the newspaper. And here are some details of that previous piece. And here's something like this, where she's basically using the thread to draw on the fabric. And I was just completely blown away when I first came across her work. Like, embroidery can be this. Something like this. I just find it so inspiring. And I like this book that you get the close-up pictures of various pieces. And something like this where it looks like she's using some applique as well. And I just found it very sort of, I don't know, freeing that embroidery can look like this. It doesn't have to be the traditional thing, and you can make up your own design. Look at this dinosaur. Isn't that cool? I also really like how she's using these bold colors for her fabric. I'm not sure I would enjoy stitching on this color of fabric. I think it would sort of make your eyes go funny. But it's beautiful. So yes, he definitely inspired my embroidery, even if what I make is not at all like what she does. I would definitely, if you come across this book, or if, I'm not sure if there are other books about her, but definitely check it out, it's very inspiring. Now this book may be my all-time favorite embroidery book. It's a Japanese book, so I can't read it. But I don't have to, because the pictures more than enough speak for themselves. I like how sometimes they use English words, but all the rest of it is in Japanese. Although saying that, these days, with phones being as smart as they are, I can use Google Translate if I wanted to read it. But in a way, I kind of like not knowing what it says. And this book, I had seen back in the day when people had blogs still. Someone had bought this book, and she had a couple of pictures of it, and I thought, I need that book. I wasn't sure what else was in it, but I was not disappointed. It's just so beautiful, the texture, and with bits of fabric appliqued on. And the way that there's thin thread and stitches with thicker thread. And look at the line here. And even just something simple like this, just some geometric shapes. And here's more textures. And this is absolutely gorgeous. I love this embroidery with the beads on it. I don't know if you can see. It's very simple, very effective. Ooh, and I love this. It's almost like it's been printed with colour and then stitched on top of it. It's beautiful. I love this effect here of just sort of loosely stitched circles. I love Japanese embroidery books because they're different than what you see in, I guess, Western embroidery books. This is just beautiful, very simple, like samplers and more samplers. So again, this book was an example of how embroidery can be, that it doesn't have to be just ducks in bonnets or whatever. And then at the back here there's instructions, all in Japanese, of course. It's almost like a secret code. Maybe one day I'll learn Japanese. Maybe I should, because I actually have quite a few Japanese embroidery books. Maybe I should do a video about those ones. So here we have the next book, Stitched in Scandinavia by Karin Holmberg. So this is by a Swedish embroiderer, and she is, of course, inspired by her Swedish heritage. So we have examples of things that are like bosom embroidery and Kubitz designs and Dala horses and that sort of thing. I think this project, or maybe one similar to it, is what first brought her work to my attention. It's just such a fabulous combination of this sort of traditional embroidery on a hoodie. I really like that. So if you're into Scandinavian sort of traditional designs, I think you would like this book. It's really lovely. It's got lots of patterns in it. And it's in English, so you don't have to learn Swedish. So this book is less about embroidery itself. It's more about color and how to put colors together. It's by an embroidery artist called Karen Barbé. I think that's how her name is pronounced. So it has a section about color theory, and then it goes into helping you to pick colors. So there's vivid colors, muted colors, dark colors, and then talking about the relationship with colors. And showing different palettes of colors. And she also shows how you can use photos and other things to create your own color palettes for embroidery. I think it's a very inspiring book to look through, both for picking my own color schemes and also even with these ones that she has made to give me ideas. It's really fun. And if you are a bit sort of uncertain about picking colors for your embroidery, I would recommend this book. And then there's a little section at the back with some stitchy projects. It's a really nice book. I really recommend it. The last of the books is this one called Embroidery: Traditional Designs, Techniques and Patterns from All Over the World by Mary Gostelow. This is a vintage book. I don't think it's been reprinted. It was published in 1978. So it's an overview, because obviously you can't go into depth with all the embroideries from all over the world in just one book, even a thick one like this. So it just gives you a little idea about different embroidery types from all over the world, like the molars. So this is Latin America, and then we go to Indo-America. And we can skip ahead a bit. Then we have North America. And it's just all different types. Some are plain embroidery, some incorporate other materials, some are more applique, and then there's various projects inspired by different areas. And then we can move on to some European inspired embroidery in North America. It even has some quilting. And there's another embroidery project. And then we're in Scandinavia. This is the sort of embroidery I used to see growing up in Denmark. It feels very Danish to me. And these look so Swedish. It's similar to some of the work in this book. We have Greenland, Iceland as well. And of course now I'm curious, I want to see what's on the Denmark pages. Beautiful work from Norway, and even a project inspired by it. And then we have more work from Sweden. And then we get to Western Europe. So, for example, France, Portugal, and in the Italian section we got some Bargello, Austria. Let's see what else we have. Hungary. I love this type of embroidery. Lots of colours. Bulgaria. The Soviet Union, obviously. That does not exist anymore. And the Eastern Mediterranean, like Greece. Turkey. And then we have African countries, Southern Africa. It seems a bit odd to just have it divided into areas instead of countries, but still African. Then we have North Africa with the Moroccan work. Very beautiful and detailed. There's lots of pictures in this book to be inspired by, and look for more books about the different styles and traditions and areas. It's good to get ideas from either techniques or different shapes. Like we have some paisley designs here. And beautiful work from India. Oh, this feels very 70s. This blouse here. We're still in India. It's a big country after all. Beautiful detail work. This is actually the one that's on the cover. Beautiful work. And Chinese embroidery. Beautiful dragons. Tibet. Thailand. Don't know if there's any Japanese embroidery. Oh yes, just one page really. I suppose it's difficult to fit in a lot. I'm surprised though that there's no mentioning here of Sachiko. You'd think that would be something they would mention, or maybe it's just because it's so popular over here now. But it's a very interesting book if you can find a copy. Lots of examples of embroidery from all over the world. So those are just a few of my embroidery books. I think if I had to pick one of them that I had to save, it would be this one. It never fails to inspire me when I look through it. So what are your favorite embroidery books? And you heard of any of these embroiderers already? I'd love to know what you think. Happy stitching!